So 2018 is here, and there are some really good deals you can get on CPUs, especially if you're buying used. Now, when I do my used PC builds every month, a lot of people tell me that they just don't simply like overclocking, whether it be they don't have the patience or they just couldn't be bothered overclocking. There are performance benefits to overclocking, but this video is going to be focused on that person who just wants to get a CPU, slap it in a motherboard, and then start playing games. So let's get on with the top 5 picks for 2018, or at least early 2018, for the used CPUs that are non-overclockable. Welcome back to Tech Yes City. This is Brian coming to you guys today, and let's get on with that list. So coming in at number 5 is the E3-1220. This comes in at $50. Now you've got 4 cores, 3.1 gigahertz, and you've got Sandy Bridge architecture, at least with the IPC. So this will play well in popular multiplayer titles, especially Dota 2, CSGO, and even PUBG. Now this is a variant that is known as the i5-2400, and the benefit of this CPU is that if you get a cheap OEM system, a pre-built, like a HP or a Dell Optiplex, for example, you can take that i3-2120 out, for example, which is a very common CPU, put this CPU straight in, maybe even put in a GTX 1050, and you've got yourself a very decent gaming PC on a budget. Now coming in at number 4 is the W3680. This is a Xeon with 6 cores, 12 threads. And even though it is overclockable, we're going to ignore that today because even out of the box, it comes in at 3.33 gigahertz on 6 cores, 12 threads. Now it is Westmere architecture, so it is a little bit old, but the IPC is still very good. And we're seeing with games, they are starting to take advantage of more cores and more threads. And so this CPU definitely gets 4th place, and it comes in around $65. Now the benefit of this W Xeon is that it'll work on practically any x58 motherboard. So yes, you can go on AliExpress, grab yourself one of those one-and motherboards, which are very cheap, put this CPU in, and you will have a very cheap gaming PC, not to mention one that will play games reasonably well, especially if you're on a budget. And coming in at number 3 is the X3470. I absolutely love this CPU. You can get it for around about $40, and you've got 4 cores, 8 threads. Not to mention it'll work on very inexpensive LGA 1156 motherboards. You can overclock this CPU, of course, and you will get really good benefits from doing that. But of course, even if you're not into overclocking, you will get some extremely good performance out of this CPU, especially for the money. Now you can couple this with some cheap DDR3 memory, even if you're managing to find it now. I know DDR4 memory is super expensive, and that's sort of trickling down to DDR3, but if you can get some good DDR3 memory, especially out of a pre-built, for example, then you can put this CPU in and especially switch it up for an i3-550 that's in there, for example, and you'll have some really good performance. And also another good thing about this CPU and also the W3680 is, of course, I know this is the non-overclockers guide, but if you wish to overclock in the future, you want to learn on something, and you're sort of a little bit nervous to do it on a brand new computer, then something like this is a great learning curve, especially this and number 4. So now coming in at number 2 is the E5-1270V2. This is the Ivy Bridge architecture, still very good to this date. Now you're getting 4 cores, 8 threads of non-overclockable performance at 3.5 gigahertz base clock, but it also turbos all the way up to 3.9 gigahertz. Now if you get a good Z77 motherboard, you'll be able to put this CPU straight in and get 3.9 gigahertz on all cores. Also with this CPU, it will work on Z68 and also even H61 motherboards, I believe, but you may need a BIOS update in order for this CPU to work properly. It will, however, I do recommend getting a Z77 or a B75 motherboard, and this CPU will be extremely good value at $130. So it is the most expensive CPU on today's list, but it is very relevant, especially if you want something that will play really well in today's games, utilize inexpensive DDR3 memory, and also even utilize an inexpensive motherboard. Now coming in at number 1 for the non-overclockers is the E5-2640. This is 2.5 gigahertz on 6 cores. However, it does turbo up to 3 gigahertz, and you will get 3 gigahertz on all 6 cores on most motherboards. X79 motherboards, you can get those cheap one-ins off of AliExpress, and they will work absolutely fine. And even with that combination, you can get DDR3 ECC registered memory, which is extremely inexpensive. It'll go well with this whole combination and make for a great CPU for gaming, even in today's latest titles. You've got Sandy Bridge architecture, which is of course a little bit dated, but that IPC is still very strong, especially in the latest titles. Games like PUBG, this CPU will have no problems getting 60 FPS practically at all times. Though if you do want to get something a little more aggressive, then you can step it up to the higher variants, but just keep in mind they do cost a lot more. So at $60, this CPU is definitely worth the money. Anyway guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, then be sure to hit that like button and let me know in the comment section below. Do you agree with today's list? Of course, when it comes to the CPU market, there are just a lot of CPUs out there that are really good. I mean, if you are into deal hunting like I do once a month, then you can get some really good one-off deals that will eclipse this whole list. I know that I've found in the past some really good one-off deals that are just such good value for money. Though this list is designed for those people who want to get into PC gaming, they don't know how to overclock, or they just don't want to, and they still want good value for money, and the CPUs are readily available. And also on top of that, I'll put the motherboard sockets right next to the links for the CPU, so you guys know which motherboard you've got to get with that particular CPU. Anyway guys, I'll catch you in another tech video very soon. Peace out for now. Bye.